thank you so much for Oslo International Hub for lending the space for us. We're sitting on really beautiful yellow couch. It's very soft. I do love this couch a lot every single time I come here. So huge big thank you for Jörn and Rita for lending us the space again. And I'm sure we'll be taking more interviews around this space in the future to come. Today we have Lila Zotou from Greece here with us today. She's been living in Norway for 7 years, but prior to moving to Oslo, she was in the Netherlands for 7 years, studying her master's degrees in fine art. And during her time in Oslo, she's also discovered what kind of photographer she wants to be like, and the creative practices. Working as a freelance photographer, she's often taking photos of from identity to belonging in places. You also describe it as vernacular photography. Can you explain what that is?
Sure. First, thank you very much for having me here, Kaman and Andre, in this beautiful place. I'm really grateful. Vernacular photography. Vernacular photography is the photography that we use of any kind of pictures, everyday pictures, like no absolute technique or any kind of knowledge behind that. So it's the kind of everyday photos. And I find them interesting because vernacular photography can build up the whole story when you want to say stories with images. Not all of stories have to be great. Not all the stories have to be beautiful landscapes, very,
sort of
grand, exactly, huge.
Canvas, huge
and
ones.
Exactly. Yeah. Not every picture has to take the attention of the viewer. You need the small bites as well to make the whole story explanatory in a way, to be communicative.
Yeah.
And it's better to explain that like. When you have a paragraph, a paragraph is made out of words. Not all words are big words. There are the and, there are the commas, there are the or, there are the that, the which. So you need small images to make the big story. That's why there are images that they work like small words, that they connect the rest to give up the whole meaning of a paragraph.
Yeah. Oh, that's really beautifully explained. I'm just thinking back at when I was taking your workshop many years back, and that was kind of almost what I was trying to do, and you were trying to make sense of it because I was doing a documentary, visual documentary photography workshop where I was for about a year taking photos of my surroundings, and I didn't know what to do with it, so I took this course with Lila. And she was able to kind of put them into islands. And you try to make sense of my surrounding as well. You're trying to picture a story out of it. And it was amazing to see how you can use photography as storytelling. And for me, I understood, it was another avenue and expression for me to tell my own story. But what is photography for you? What got you into photography? What got me into photography has been... First of all, I have to say that I hope you keep photographing because you are quite good. And your stories, it was exactly what I'm looking to my students now. Oh, really?
Yeah, everyday stories, snapshots, because you wanted this not really staged. You like the more everyday observation, and it's not easy that exactly because we are bombarded by the beautiful images, the aesthetics, the everything that has to be perfect. So we forgot to see the way that something happens in front of us, the way I see it now, without staging, without polishing it. So going back to that, it's not easy though. So I'm glad to continue if you'll continue doing that.
Oh, definitely. And I think I explained to you that I'm kind of looking into doing as like a photo book with a collage of poetry. Sort of imagery was a poetry that kind of go in line to some of the feelings that I got when I was taking these photos. I really don't know. It's been some years, I must admit. So it's always been at the back of my mind. It's always something that I want to continuously doing. And we're going to go into this because one of the fascination when I was talking to Lila was some similarities of how we use it as a therapy as well. So in some ways,
absolutely.
But yeah, sorry, continue with your
no,
photography.
No, absolutely. You're correct. And it's also like a therapy. You said that you don't, it has been many years back, but you never forget it. It's like bike. If you know once to biking, you continue. It takes experiencing. The more you do something, the best it becomes. The more you do banana cake, the more excellent you become on it. It's the same with everything, you know that. Yeah. So I get into photography, on my studies through university. I did my bachelor's degree in Greece in a university, where the school back then it was visual studies, but more art theory and this kind of base, not so much based on like studio-based work, like fine art. It was more about art history, theory of art and all these things. But we had also photography, and we had some studios of painting and sculpture and everything. So we had a little bit of everything, but I got hooked with photography. There we started, and it happened to have a very good teacher. That somehow, that's how it starts, to have somebody who believes in you. Somehow she saw something always on my pictures that I couldn't see. So she was the one who really moved me or guided me into more serious photography, because I was not that conscious about being a photographer, being an artist. I was really very naive on my brain back then.
I think we all are in some ways.
Like, really, okay, we finish university, we see what's happening, leave it. It's not an example of anyone today. So we see how it goes. But photography was something that I started using more and more with observing my environment. It stopped. I didn't really see it as more like I never had a camera on my hand. Back then we didn't have also mobiles the way we do have today. So then I went for more studies in the Netherlands, where I did my master's and everything, and there I started using again photography. Because why? There I felt the need to understand my environment, and the only medium to do so was photography. So I felt differently actually. I felt that I was photographing things that I could relate. I needed points of references. And I thought by photographing things that I could relate, I'm closer to my roots, closer to home, to family. I had that need. That's how it felt, and this is how it started. Of course, through the program, the academy the Fine Art Academy that I did. Of course, we had to produce work. We have to come up with stories. We have to come up with ways why we do use the medium we use, and answer all these questions about art and research. It was very tough. It was very tough because I was not coming from that environment. Right. I was coming from a school more general about art theory and stuff, and a little bit of this and that, more general knowledge. And suddenly in the Netherlands, we're just dropped in the heavy, deep water with all the Dutch students around and few foreigners that they knew how to navigate everywhere. They were very comfortable and confident and everything. And I was like, what? Hardly speaking a good English, like still struggling, but still struggling. And back then a lot and everything. So yeah, it was my way of communicating. It was my visual language.
Yeah. And so how about here in Oslo then? Because I could only imagine how it's like being a foreigner, in a place where everyone's familiar, and then now coming to Oslo, which is still a very different environment, unlike home for you. How was that like for you, having to navigate Scandinavia, compared with, your roots in Greece and, being here for these years now?
Yes,
How's that journey?
I came to Norway. We came with my partner back then, just for a year, we thought. So we were either subletting our small studio back in Norway, in the Netherlands, to go back and eventually continue what we're doing. So we came because he got an offer in a position that it was quite appealing, and we said, yes, sure. I was working always as a freelance. even back then. So it was easier for me to communicate. Actually, back then I could go back to do some work in the Netherlands and come here. Okay, that lasted longer, and eventually we were here. And there it hit me when after 3 years, where I realized that we are staying here. There's nothing going back, because until then we didn't know. The position was unstable. I was still back and forth. I was trying also to find, okay, if we are here, what we do. I'm not starting with Norwegian courses, because I had started already with some courses then, and I know it's super expensive, and if we're leaving, I don't want to invest. So it was in limbo situation. But that's the worst. And we have a saying, I guess everyone must say it, or everyone must have the saying, perhaps in English as well, but I don't remember it, how to say it in English. I'll describe it. It goes like, there's nothing more permanent than the temporary.
What's it in Greece? I'm guessing it's
in Greece. This is in Greece. So wherever you are, try to think that you're going to stay forever. Okay, doesn't seem very appealing, but it's an instruction in a way that you try to think that here you are now. Don't live on the universe like, no, I'm leaving, no, I shouldn't invest here, I shouldn't invest there. Here you are. Do the best that you can here. And it was a very good advice that I didn't follow. But because it took longer. If I had started earlier, the earlier you start, the better it is for you. So for these 3 years, I was feeling in a limbo situation. That's not this, not that. I was a tourist in Norway for quite some time. I couldn't have an ID card. It took quite some time. And that made it feel more tourist. It was difficult to open an account because we were not married with my partner.
That was here in Norway?
He was here.
Okay.
We were living together for all the years and stuff. We didn't want to get married. So I felt that, so we have to follow 2 years here under the same roof. We're living 8 years already. 7, under the same roof. It didn't count to them. We have to be under the same roof here.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
Okay.
So and you basically, or to get married. No, I didn't want to. I got pissed off with that. Because that was the only reason. So I didn't have actually access to couldn't have my own company. See, things start being difficult when I realized that, okay, here we are. For him it was easy. He would just landed the job. I was in a difficult position. I had to be I had to make things easy for me. For my company, to start a company, to register, for health. Doctors.
Right, exactly.
All the time I was paying. I was not part of the system. They couldn't find because I was not part of the thing. This question, what is your fødselsnummer?
Fødselsnummer, it's like it's basically the Norwegian insurance number, I think is
correct. The
social security number? Or
it's that social security number.
And it makes you open up to everything, and that really worries me. Is how exclusive really the policies are here, and also I think it infringes on your relationship with your partner as well. You're kind of forced into marrying when you don't really kind of wanted to. So. We're together many years, and I feel this is my person. But marriage was something like a conventional society kind of proof that I always felt that I don't need it. But I feel that the society needs it to go forward, but still I refuse it. Anyhow, we managed after 2 years that I had proof that we're living with the same person under the same roof. Here we are, look, this is your address. So I managed to get things organized, have my bank account, have my card, be registered finally. And there I realized again that no, you're not a tourist anymore. You weren't a tourist, other that you are fooling your mind, you're fooling yourself. Then what we do, where we are, what we have around us, and again photography came. Because in the Netherlands I was photographing for me, but I was not working with photography as much. I was working more in institutions like gallery, like museums, like administration. I was kind of being afraid to be a full artist, to call myself an artist, and to say I use photography. So it was easier because I finished there. I had better connections. So it was easier to get some gallery jobs. I was younger as well, so they needed more people back then and stuff like that.
So I kept more dear to me photography, and I came from background that I never used it commercially, or I never thought how else photography can be used. I found that by my own.
Right.
So I had very bad stereotype about photography, that either you be a documentary, photo reportage, which is I have a huge admire, but I didn't want to do that, or fashion photographer, or advertisement. So these labels that I didn't fit to any of them.
No.
So I took time to realize that, okay, what I'm gonna do with photography, and I found it here. Here it came again as a tool to not be left alone, as a tool again to be introduced to my environment. That's how photography came. And then I felt that I found out about this peripatetic photography, which is, there is a term, it's called peripatetic, and means, it comes from a Greek word. I'm Greek, by the way. So it comes from a Greek word that means of strolling, the movement of walking, but outside, while exploring. Isn't it like strolling, like you don't really know where you're going, wandering, but you're exploring meanwhile? And by the environment, you're being influenced by the environment, so thinking, different thoughts come to your mind. Thoughts stimulate motivations, stimulates feelings, emotions, memories. So that is a process. And I figure out about that process with photography. So with a camera walks, basically. Walking with the camera, where I start realizing where I am. And I start realizing that I did that best at night, when everything was calm and cool, and no one was questioning. It was quiet and still. With this blue also, the blue colors at the winter. I felt better that I was photographing always during winter and night. I don't know why. But back then I felt that because, it's something new for me.
Yeah.
The Netherlands was quite flat. Well, for this kind of photography that I am into, it was really an indifferent place. Nothing really to... So I'm very glad that we decided to move, because after all, I remember that I had enough. I wanted to live in the Netherlands back then. So we were glad that we found this possibility. Of course, the possibility that my partner got, and we together we were offered this space, and let's say this place, because I felt more at home here, because I come from the northwest in Greece. I come from the mountains. I come from a very rainy place where we have snow, where we have a lot of cold as well. So for me, I miss the mountains, where the Netherlands was so flat, it was so boring. So that kind of thing really woke me up as a photographer. The landscape first woke me up as a photographer, then the environment around me, urban photography, different, totally different, because Scandinavia is a different planet.
Yes.
It's not like north of Europe, it's Scandinavia. Norway is different.
Yeah.
The fact also that they're not being in the EU, I feel that it has shaped differently their mentality and ideology. And I must say that I admire several things about it, and the way they have set up their society, and this several things that I didn't have before, neither in the Netherlands, neither in Greece. So I give them the benefit of that.
And what was that was different about Scandinavia, that was different from... in what way?
Well, okay, when we arrived, that was more actually to decline. Actually, it started being the declination. The decline. Then it started being the decline, because basically we had almost 8 years of the right government. So I don't know if I should go political here.
Okay.
But what I meant, it was the more social approach towards the people. The more socialistic kind of approach that maybe is more on the name than it is actually on the later on than it was actually on the actions. Yeah. But still, there are some stuff from my experience, from things that I have experienced, that there still remain here untouched. Okay. And for that, because for me political is very important, always. And I believe that the personal is political. here I think is more, you can do more with that. You can be more political than you could in the Netherlands, for example.
Okay.
Still, okay, I don't want to go into that. There's a lot of conversation. We are the ones that we feel to be political anywhere we are, because we are not from here. Perhaps if I was from here, I wouldn't see things that I needed to be political. When I say political, not with politics involved. It's again a different version. Being as a citizen, being aware of a citizen. That's what I mean about political, and it's a version we use differently in Greek again.
Okay.
So being political doesn't mean that you have to be involved in politics, but it means that you have to be aware of situations around you. You have to criticize situations that you think that they're not fair, they're not correct, and be aware for you and for others that they are in less benefited position than you. That's what I mean. So,
okay. So it's a bit like civic participation.
Civil participation
from your side, and that doesn't necessarily mean that you need to go into politics or politician in order to kind of do that, but you have an active role in society to move forward in a certain things. So I think that's
you put it very well. I feel that here that's more possible.
Okay.
Constructed, possible. That something will come out of it. Constructive. Constructive and structured. I felt like in my country, yes, many people can be, but I don't feel that they have outcome the way they wished. In the Netherlands, I didn't experience it that much. It was more apolitical for my standards. I was younger, of course, as well. We're talking about almost a decade younger soon. So the mind is different. You have different needs. You're craving for different things.
And I think like when we're on that note, I often think about, I think as minorities here in the room here where I am now, is that we go into quite a lot of the immigration policies here, honestly, and I think it affects us so much. And I think like with your journey, and I think this is the first time I've heard that somehow your previous existence with your partner outside of Norway was not counted. And I think that was really weird, because when I came here, the kind of relationship I had with my daughter's father, what we had before, was actually sort of counted, because they were actually looking at how many times we have flown to each other, and you see that, which is it goes to show how things has changed quite a bit, I think, now. And I think it must have taken you at least a year or two to actually wrap up all of that paperwork.
Absolutely.
To show of that. And on top of that, you probably have to wait another months in order to open up a bank account as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. And you know what it was at the end? I thought I had all the papers. I went there. And then, again, something was missing. So I was again... I shouldn't swear. Okay, I was... I was... Again, I go there. I have the appointment. I got on my line and everything. I thought July it was. We were about to go later on for summer vacation, and then I meet this person, and she says, "Oh, but you need that." I don't remember what paper. And then she sees the name of my partner and says, "Is it that guy?" Says, "Yes." "Does he teaches there?" I said, "Yes." He says, "Oh, who's my teacher? I really liked his course."
Okay.
Norwegian. And says, "You know something? I think we can skip that. You're granted."
Oh my God.
Can you believe that? So I had something else that I have to come with papers on. So I had more waiting time. But she says, "But you know something really, it's not really, it's okay. I know him, I know you, I see the rest is fine. I don't know you, but I know him, and he's in a position that, okay, it gives some more, let's say, authorship on this kind of things, that you're not really doing something legal or anything." So again, not on the right path, right? We find the back door. But I'm very blessed for this, because she was really stuck to the, computer says no.
Yes.
You know the series?
I know that.
That's such a great thing.
That is so Norwegian, though. They stick by the books. They stick by... Somehow I find it as a very false morale.
Yeah,
in a
yeah.
sense. It's a morale that makes them feel powerful, and somehow makes them prestige in a certain way, but it made our life hell.
Sure.
There's nothing good out of it, in my opinion, if you look at things in a very huge big picture, honestly, if I have to go into that route. But anyway, that's another story. So
Absolutely.
but I think like your journey also here was quite a tough one, and that was when you found out you were you had to have infertility treatment. Is that right?
Yeah.
Do you want to walk us through
Sure.
that?
It's the first time I talk so openly about it.
Yeah.
Other than my pictures. Because with my pictures I started already my visual journey, trying to understand what that means for me, what this experience, how could I articulate visually this experience. But okay, when we arrive in for whatever time we arrive, we didn't know for how long we will be in Norway, but we arrived on a good age to start having a family, because we thought together we'll be okay, let's start having a family. Things seem more stable right now, jobs wise and everything. It's a good time. Little we knew. Yeah, little we knew. So when we found out that we suffer from infertility in a way, again, I was not registered. So it was difficult for me to go through these checks that first, both partners have to go. You check yourself and then you know from where you start. Yes, that was really difficult because I couldn't really start from here since I was not on the system and I had to pay everything. But anyhow, my partner could start, so he did his part, and then they referred us to a clinic, something. He did again that checks there. Okay, then when it became clear that we will need to go into IVF, there was an artificial.
Vitro, something.
In vitro. I don't know if anyone is like, well, we should explain that it's assisted reproduction, basically. That's the correct way, I believe, to say. Or artificial fertilization. Back then, though, like we're talking 8 years now, 2022. I forget counting properly. We're talking about, let's say, 8 years back. It seemed to be very difficult to get into the system, even if I was registered back then, which I was not. It was difficult to get into line, the doctor told me. So I remembered, he said that don't forget about it, don't wait in Norway, go to Denmark. Okay. They suggested it already here because the waiting time was already about a year. Oh, wow. Back then it felt too long. But since I was not registered here, it was for me easier to go to Greece anyhow. Because there I go directly, I didn't have to wait the train of doctors, the line that to get the certificate, the approval of this doctor, of the GP, to go to the rest. Right. I knew what the problems were. I had to check a few things. So it was easier. In my country it's easier that we don't have the GP that gives permission to go to the rest.
Yeah, you can just go straight to the specialist.
You go straight to the specialist, and that saves a lot of time.
Absolutely.
So I did that, my part and everything, and then we figure out that since we have to go abroad, then we better do it there. Okay, we did many tries. I'm not going to go into this because that we did it in another country. But for 3 years, I didn't feel. I don't know.
You're grieving.
I was grieving, exactly. Yeah, I know exactly. I know what it was. I don't know. It was difficult for me to focus again on that because it was again every time it's a process that every go you're thirsty and you go to the source of water and you're not drinking. I didn't want to experience again another mourning because it's another personal mourning. I was mourning with my dad indeed, and it happened that I was a lot with them and I helped them. I wanted to be with his last days and months and everything, so I stayed a lot of time there. So let's say that 3 years passed. Not let's say, 3 years passed that I felt that, okay, I can face that monster again. And then it comes where I ask help here. And then I got nothing. Then I got the door here. That was also because I said, okay, I don't want again that thing. I don't want again going back and forth. We are here now. I want us here. It's a lot of work already. I want to have my house, my sleeping bed, whatever, my program, my schedule. Because every time I go back, it's my mom's place, it's different. I really appreciate it that I have a space in Greece, but it's not mine. I cannot slam at the door and cry. I have to keep up the appearances for my mom as well. So I really thought we can continue being here, but it started with a myoma. It's it's an ecological thing that you had to taking out like a good tumor, let's say. Oh. It's called myoma, but we shouldn't go into more of this medical details. There I needed here the help. Okay. Because that needed to be removed, so to continue my treatment. And when I went here, there was a huge of waiting time again. It was a year.
A year?
Yes. And I said, but I'm in an age that I really need to proceed with this thing. Yeah. I'm not getting any younger for having children if we want to. Yeah. Back then they said, yes, we understand, but we are the only hospital in Oslo that we're operating with these things, and we have cases from all around the country, so we have to prioritize. Sure, you prioritize. I agree. What can I say? I went to Greece again. I have it removed right away. Then Corona hit. Things were slower again. So anytime I wanted any check here, I had to be really referred to. I had to be taken too long. I kind of gave up, and I remember it was in June that they called me. They said, "Oh, Mrs. Zotou, we have a free cancellation. Do you want to have your operation in August?" I had it already in February. I said, "No, thank you. Give it to somebody else." "Oh, okay, sure. Yes, sure. Thanks for letting us know." Anyhow, it continued, things okay. Then things with Corona, with the pandemic, became a bit more flexible. We could travel again. And on the third year of my dad passed away, I went back to try again. So that was last summer. Where for first time, we were positive. Yes. We got positive results, but we had a miscarriage. So I had a miscarriage. So my experience then starts here. That when I got the positive results, I had to follow up with some checks and some medicines that I had been subscribed with my doctor. But here, there didn't seem the need that I should follow up that. So every time I have bought few. But again, because all the other times didn't work, I didn't know that I have to buy a lot of this. I didn't want to. I said, I'm gonna get them from Norway, because then I'm gonna be in the system. I'm gonna tell them, you see, I have to get these ones. Oh my goodness! And I remember, okay, it went for some time, and then I needed to follow. My medicine's finished, so I have to buy from here. Oh my goodness, how nightmare it was that. My GP couldn't prescribe them, of course, because she was not authorized. I had to be referred to gynecologist. The gynecologist wouldn't know some of the medicines. We have to look them up. They asked me, call your doctor to see what is this, maybe in Norway. Oh my God. And then they were telling me, like, and why do you need that? We don't give that here. We don't do that here. We don't do this way here. And it felt that I had to apologize every time. It was my choice. I said, look, I don't know. Yes, there is a protocol that I'm following. I have all this history. They thought that it's better that I stick to this medicine to avoid miscarriages. Well, and other things, and some checks. They think maybe it's better. They saw the historical thing and everything, and they say, yes, sure, okay, we continue. But it was so difficult to every time, even to buy them, there was triple the price than I would buy them from Greece. And again, not the blow recette, as they call it, not. You had to pay the full price. Only few, very cheap ones. They were cut half the price. It didn't matter that there were other things. That was the smallest thing on the way, like an obstacle. But there were small things that it made me feel like I was wrong. Like I was not a doctor. What, they follow me? I did. I didn't know it would be so difficult to buy the medicines here. And okay, I went to Greece and everything back. But what strikes me and I remember it was the first time that I felt that I went to the doctor, to the GP, and then I asked, again, because you follow. It's not a biological process that you get pregnant, and I was past 35, obviously, and there are several blood tests that I have to do. So you get positive result, but you have to follow up this protein, this value on your blood, to see how much it grows, because then you have to protect it with some medical things and some vitamins that I was taking. So I had to go back to the doctor and get tested for 1 week, for 2 weeks, 4 times, to get this value on my blood, how it goes, because I have also thyroiditis.
Okay.
So, and then they were saying, but again, why? Why do you need it again? But we did it last time, but why do you need it again? Again, explanations, and again, can you put me forward to this and that? And that was really energy wasted.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely energy wasted. And every time I have to call, and do you have the result? They need it in my clinic back in Greece to have the results like almost same day. They are used to have the same day results. Here, 3 days. Do you have them? We have to know how we're going to continue with your doses, for example. I said, no, we wait. Seriously? What is this that you wait?
What I don't understand is, knowing that you have gone treatment from Greece.
Yes.
What I don't understand is, why did the GP did not even bother to pick up the phone and call your doctor? Because this is kind of pretty routine, actually, in the UK. And I'm saying this is like, in a very international society that we're living in, I must admit, when I'm listening to your story, I'm getting really pissed off and angry, and I have so many swear words coming up in my head, and because I can relate to the experience of waiting, and the experience of even if you have the operation, what would happen to.
Yeah.
So for me, I had to make 4 or 5 different calls, because when I had the surgery, now what I didn't know was that when it was explained to me, I had a microscopic surgery. And that was supposed to have 1 week, I'm good, I'm out. But it took a lot longer, and I was not feeling good. And then I could only take out the bandage after 2 weeks. And I was calling, I was trying to figure out, I need to get follow-up. This follow-up is pretty shit in this country.
Yeah.
It's so awful that I don't understand. How can any doctor, surgeon, or whatever can operate not following up?
Yes.
And that was what happened to me. And I said that I'm demanding for a follow-up because I'm not feeling good. And as soon as I got there, they even got the system wrong. And also, I was talking to 4 different people on the phone in less than 24 hours, trying to get an appointment back to the clinic.
Yeah.
And as you go from one to the other, one didn't even put the information in my journal. So I had to repeat myself again in a way that you were apologizing again. I'm sorry, but this is what's happening to me, And there's this feeling of hostility, almost like, oh, you're disturbing me.
Yeah, exactly, disturbing. And you have to be sorry and this, and may do this, may do that.
I mean, the thing is, why? Why should we be sorry about what? This is our health. You are providing us a service. We're still paying our taxes. Yeah. No matter what, we're still here, we're citizens, treat us decently. And that was where I got really pissed off at the point that I was yelling at the 4th person. I was going, do you guys not freaking communicate with each other? I don't understand, And when it comes to our health, I am so protective. Even for, even when I'm listening to yours, I'm thinking, how many things could have gone right for you had they actually just opened up their minds a little bit to make your life a little bit easier, instead of you feeling like you're a burden to them and to the system. Because I don't think you were. And I think you just want to have, what's the best for you, really, in all of this.
Yeah, it's clear that they're not really after your best interest. It's clear to me that. And I can say that from my position, that would be after my interest, because I was entitled to have public health treatment here, but not after I crossed the 38-year-old.
Oh, is that the case?
Yes. Where in my country, that's the opposite. When you cross a certain age, there you need assistance.
Mm.
In the Netherlands too, at least one.
Mm.
But here, you are a burn case, apparently. And that hit me. So when I really needed anything, the operation didn't work. It was too much waiting, a long waiting time. Follow-up, it was pain in the ass again. Sorry, mind my Greek. It was really very difficult. Follow-up was difficult. And again, when it happened, I had a miscarriage. I had him in Greece. I was following it up.
Mm.
I had it on 6 weeks. 5 weeks, we could listen to the heart. It was really strange and everything. So you thought, but it happens. It's very common in the first 3 months. What struck me also here, you had the first ultrasound on the 10th week.
Mm.
So I would be carrying a dead fetus for 5 months if I was here without knowing. And I would continue with my medicines and everything. Unless, of course, if I go to private check. Okay, private check I go, I know, I pay 2,000 krona. That's not the point. The point is filtering. I'm not 25, I'm not 30, I'm not even 35. You need to have different filter checks when it comes to health. For women, I'm talking my case, about pregnant women. Of course, you address different somebody who's 25. Not anymore 30. But when you have above 35 women who get with IVF treatments, you don't behave the same as if you have a biological pregnancy in front of you. You try to break the corners a little bit. That's what I would have done. And I think that the A system, who is really supportive to patients, would understand better. And I have that experience from my country. I'm not saying my country sucks in many things, but for that, and I'm not a taxpayer there. I'm a taxpayer here.
Right.
So for that for that experience, I can compare. And so for that only, I would really there it struck me, and I said, what is the point then? That my experience was really poisoned. In a way that any time I really needed some guidance, I didn't get any. And when I asked the doctor, I changed GP, I got a very more communicative woman. She was very supportive and everything, I must say, because I was not very lucky with my previous GP. She referred me because after the miscarriage, I had to have a follow-up to see about how we're doing down there. Because I had the miscarriage was with it was an operation again in Greece, because there I had the miscarriage. It was not medicine. Maybe I don't want to again not go into details, but there are cases where you take a pill and then you abort. But I had to go through operation. So after the operation, I had to be checked. So she referred me to a GP and not to a gynecologist. Okay, I went after a month actually. Okay, I still paid. Public. I still pay 800 krona. Okay, that's how it works apparently. After a month, I was referred. I got no less, about 20 days, let's say. And I asked, by the way, I said, doctor, why I cannot go anymore? Why they have this system like up to 38 years old? You are able to be supported by the public system. Why they don't support women older, that basically they are in need? And what did he tell me? And I would never have thought about it or never have put on that words. He says, well, let's put it that way. When you have 2 horses, you have a young horse and an old horse, where are you betting? You bet on the young horse, he said. So let's say that the Norwegian health system, that's how they thinks, that they're going to put their money to the horse that has most chances to win. He told me this thing. There. He was not even looking at me. I said, yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I feel a bit, pissed off now that I didn't say something else, but I didn't react. I didn't say anything.
How cool was that? Honestly, I'm just...
He was realistic. He says, yeah, okay, let me tell you, these are the two things. Let's put it that way. He gave an example. He gave a very, very visual example. I saw the horses running. And me being the one that really gaps on the obstacles, down. Doesn't cross the obstacles, you know, that you have the horses.
Yeah.
If I can be funny on that. But really, when I thought about it afterwards, I said, what did he say? Seriously. You should be, as a doctor, a bit more careful how you say things. More sensitive. Say yes, is maybe an unfair system, or don't judge. Don't judge. You're a doctor.
Well, he already judged you. I'm sorry.
He did.
He already judged you.
He judged.
I'm asking you not to judge.
Yes, and well, actually already, but when he was checking me, he says, you're doing very well, actually, for your age.
So, why can't you try?
Because the system has free up to 38 years old, and I passed the 30 years old last April. So you can go here privately as well as I go in Greece. But in Greece, it's half the money I pay here.
Are you considering trying again, or?
Yeah, I am. I have one more. We froze something. We have a little frozen. We will try once more. Now that I, because after a miscarriage, it was the first time that I get pregnant. But after the miscarriage, you have to wait for the system to clear.
Right.
It's not if you are under biological procedure like normal, then after a month, even if you have a miscarriage, after a month you can go on. But because it was an operation, I had to wait.
Yeah.
Every time I have to wait, and I don't really have the time on my side.
Yeah. It's the waiting, isn't it? I find like
you have to wait, and then you go, and then it's safer for your body to wait after you have the treatment that.
I totally understand that. I'm just trying to
ask me anything you want.
I'm so sorry to hear what you've gone through, and I'm just feeling the excruciating pain of the weight of you having gone through. But I'm also thinking that you're incredibly strong, to the state that you are now, that I'm seeing. So for those who are listening in who has similar experiences, what was the one thing that just kept you going? Because I'm looking at these years of turmoil, both with immigration journey, both on your family side where your father passed away, the loss and the grief of that, and then now the miscarriage and all that. What kept you going? And what is even your takeaway message or your motto, whatever it is, that you hold on to even now?
Maybe, I don't know how it's going to sound, but...
Take your time.
What it helped me, what it held me, or what it made me continue, go on, helped me go on, it was the fact that I liked what I have made until now. I like the life. I like the point that I realized what things I want for myself, professionally and personally. So that kept me going. So I tried to see independently from having a child or not, that I should stick to these things, that I think that they're good for me and I'm good for them. And try to be working with people, or try to be somewhere always that you can offer something. So I still try to remember that whatever happens on this, try again. Whatever happens, I'm okay with where I am with my partner, and I'm okay with what I have achieved on few things. But I know they're mine. These very few things, I know they're mine, and I know how I have won them. So I can pass the method to somebody else as well. And photography has kept me. Teaching the others the way of understanding where you stand through pictures. That has helped me. And I would like to say something as an advice to somebody, because often when I will say I didn't communicate that until very late, our infertility, until my story with images start being more popular and coming out to photographers and to this kind of audience. So I never really talked about it with words and everything. But often I realized, or I see it around, not to me so much, but I realized that women, I'm talking about women, that they are infertile, or couples, they get this suggestion as if they haven't thought about it. Oh, but don't worry, you can adopt. Sure you can. And sure, if you feel like, you should do it. But there's something that people forget. Adoption is choice for everyone, regardless infertility. So it shouldn't be like, okay, you cannot have a child, you adopt. I can have a child, I have mine, you adopt. It's not about mine or yours. But that sounds already selfish, that you suggest to the person who is inferior to that he should choose for this. If not you, who else? But that I would like people to understand, that no, when you have nothing to say, don't say anything to people when they go into a situation you haven't been. Say, oh really, I don't really know how it might be. It can be really shitty. Yeah, it is. It's very honest to say that. But about adoption, sure it might be, but you don't know also the struggles of being a foreigner that adoption might have for somebody who is a foreigner. So that's what I would like to say, because it comes easy to people to comfort you in a way with this kind of advice. But something else, that the person who is in the position of struggle sure has thought almost of options the way you are thinking in one of your minutes. Believe this person has gone through it more than a minute or two or five.
Exactly.
So they all know more than what, of course, you say, my 5 minutes of advice, like my second, how they call it, the 5 cents of advice, how they have it in English, the expression. That's my
English is gone.
That's my after talking with me, of course your English is gonna go.
It's got nothing to do with that. Like, it's for being here for such a long time. It's very hard. So it's like, and also like, because although I'm brought up in England and everyone thinks like I have all this vocabulary and all this knowing everything, unfortunately I don't. And even I remember like before we had jumped into this conversation and being recorded, I was explaining to you that even I can't pronounce my name.
Yes, let that alone.
So yeah.
How is this expression? My 5 cent.
Senses? You mean? Like
no, my 5 cent talk. Well, okay, if I had, I could Google it, and I could Google it on my mobile. But okay, there is an expression, 5 cents. If I can give you a piece of advice.
Oh, 5 cents or 2 cents.
My 2 cents. My 2 cents.
Right.
That's we got it.
We got there.
We found it. My 2 cents of advice. That was that I can say about regarding the matter, because it's a choice. As you have that choice, I have that. We have the same choice. Whoever goes for it, let them be the judge of it. But and.
No, I think like you were quite spot on that, and I think like what I've realized in many of the talking to a lot of my friends with immigrant backgrounds is that communication is really horrible here, and also like even to each other sometimes we don't know how to communicate when someone's suffering and when someone's going through trauma. Now I've already spoken a little bit about me wanting to take my own life last year, and some of the most common things I hear about was, that's a stupid thing to do. And did you know how many times I actually thought that might have been as well? It's just that having gone through it is very, very different, And I think like your experiences and how you survive those moments with your what I believe is compassion and love for the world, and honestly for you, when I'm listening to you, because the reason why I did this podcast was trying to find some answers, and I feel like when I'm with you, the answer is the love of life.
Oh, nice.
I don't know what you think about that. Of course I don't want to impose or but that's how I interpret your story today. Is the love of life.
Come on. That's true. Love of life. You know what I thought when I had the miscarriage? Oh shit, I can go to this trip now. I shouldn't, because I had to be careful and this and that. Oh, I can do that workshop and I can do the other one, and that never changes and never ends.
Right. Yeah.
but it will never end. So I'm saying that whatever happens, when you find to have fun, when you find your way to find things that you find meaning, you continue doing them. Meaningful things, you continue doing them. So that's what I'm. Again, my 2 cents.
You did indeed. Well, we're going to wrap up this conversation.
Sure.
Thank you again, Lila. Is there anything else you would like to add that I haven't asked?
No, you have asked. I think we talk even more than I would expect it that I will talk about, or these things that I will say. But since we're talking about stories here, and we're communicating stories, I think what we learn also it's to talk to each other, not hold on to ourselves and to our secrets, and live on our life, our big stories or small stories, because also you have to come from a very struggle situation, and you keep on going with your own struggles and demons. We all have our demons. We forget that we come from a different background, from a different reference. We don't start from the same point, all of us. So it's good to remember to not compare and to talk. To talk. So today is a very good idea, that we should share our stories. Because if I can say something more, and I will finish it here, the stories is like the boats. I'm coming from Greece, okay? I have said that 3 times. I wouldn't expect to say that so much. But it's a country who makes boats, they have this long story and tradition. A boat, it may take you months, not even years, to make it. But if you don't put it out on the water, if it doesn't travel, it is as if it never existed. And you keep it where? On the port. What stories a boat has to say? What stories of the people who are living on that boat can say? It's the same with stories. If you don't bring them out to the public, if you don't communicate them, it's like never existed. And that goes with poems, that goes with images, with everything. We need to communicate what we have in our mind. First, because we feel better, and second, because we might in 100 times reach to somebody who is gonna feel even better, and is gonna reflect on something or grab from a word or a thought that can help them continue, or found their path, or feel related, or not feel alone simply. So sharing stories, it reminds you that you're not alone, and you're not alone.
That's really beautifully said. And to end this, and thanks so much for sharing your story with us.
Thank you again for giving me the possibility, and you brought up this. I never thought about it like the thriving or surviving in Norway. I never thought it as a thriving story when I communicated to you. I never thought about it. So you helped me see it in that way.
And I think you helped me see, the light of life, so
we
both help each other out here. So
that's cool. We keep that in mind. Life goes on, and there is still a lot of light, and now we are getting into spring anyhow.
Soon.